Legendary New Mexico, in partnership with TLC Plumbing and Utility.
The word enchantment means a feeling of great pleasure or delight. It also means being under the influence of a spell or magic, a fitting nickname for New Mexico. Throughout the centuries, our state has been home to some of the most infamous myths and legends the world over, but we're also chock full of lesser-known tall tales and folklore. Like the Thunderbirds of southern New Mexico, celebrated in native cultures with large totems, these mythic creatures reportedly have wingspans upward of 18 feet. While ancient birds such as the Teratorn were thought to exist during the Pleistocene era, some 11,000 years ago, reports of similar winged creatures persist in the Southwest as recently as 1999. Near Cimarron, New Mexico, lies the Dawson Cemetery. It's all that's left of what was once a booming mining town. An horrific accident struck the mine in 1913, and nearly 300 miners were killed. 10 years later, another explosion claimed the lives of 123 men. Dawson became a ghost town soon after, yet some say the spectral headlights of the miners' helmets can still be seen once the sun goes down. Just outside of Los Lunas rests an 80-ton boulder with what appears to be an ancient inscription. The Mystery Rock, or Commandment Rock, is thought by some to feature ancient carvings of the Ten Commandments. Believers say it could have been carved anywhere between 500 to 2,000 years ago. Skeptics, however, say it's a hoax concocted by the rock's discoverer, Frank Hibben, who was accused of planting other artifacts in the area. And in downtown Albuquerque, the Wool Warehouse is reportedly home to an eternal fan of the theater. The building's founder, wool tycoon Frank Bond, is said to haunt the backstage area, sometimes being seen in a double-breasted suit, quietly enjoying live performances. Just west of the Wool Warehouse, Albuquerque's most beloved neighborhoods greets thousands of visitors on a daily basis. And some say there are permanent residents whose origins stretch back for generations. Since Albuquerque's founding in 1706, Old Town has been a bustling center for life in the Duke City.
Places that are very active in life, had a lot of energy in life, those tend to be the places that, are the most active in death.
Widely acknowledged as one of Albuquerque's most haunted boroughs, Old Town has dozens of ghost stories.
Pretty much every restaurant and every public restroom and a few other gift shops and things are haunted.
Considering the long history of Old Town, it shouldn't be any surprise that echoes from the past reportedly can still be heard today. The city's oldest building, the San Felipe de Neri Church, built in 1793, calls the neighborhood home. Stories of other infamous characters, such as Billy the Kid, also populate the area. And mysterious characters from long ago, such as a Confederate soldier on horseback, have been seen meandering through the streets to this day.
One of the most popular stories is Sarge, his horse. People will come down here 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. You'll hear a horse walking around here in Old Town, and nowhere will the horse be found anywhere around here.
Well, the way I started learning about some of the stories was I really love sopapillas. And I was wandering into this place called the Church Street Cafe. I was wearing a shirt that said that I was a ghost hunter. And the waitress goes, we have a ghost in here. And I'm like, oh, really?
Cody Polston is the author of Ghosts of Old Town Albuquerque, a collection of ghost stories chronicling the spirits still residing here. Spirits like Sarah Ruiz, the resident ghost of the Church Street Cafe. As the former owner of the building, her mischievous spirit is said to make its presence known by moving silverware, glassware, and even appearing as a full-bodied apparition.
We're actually doing a television show called Weird Travels. And my friend, fellow ghost hunter, his Dr. Pepper was empty. So he's like, I'm gonna go get a refill. So he goes inside. About a minute later, he runs back out to me. Oh, you gotta come in here, there's stuff going on. We ran back inside and everyone in the restaurant was back up against the walls. Looking around, there's silverware all over the place. And down at the far end of the hall, was a Travel Channel cameraman who was mad because he just powered his camera off and he missed what happened. But according to the people there, they were eating and all of a sudden the silverware just started bouncing like someone was knocking it off. each of the tables, starting in the front, going all the way back to the back of the restaurant.
Another famous spirit is that of Elizabeth, a little girl seen through the halls of La Placita restaurant, often seen in a communion dress.
What's different is the style of the dress. So she has sun wheels up on the shoulders, around down the bottom of the hem of the dress.
Then we were on an episode of The Dead Files, and that was the High Noon Saloon, and the ghost there is Felicita.
But not all the ghosts are unexplained. In fact, a good number of the stories have been debunked with very pedestrian origins.
Remember Sarge? The Civil War spirit reported to ride through the streets.
We found out that there was a guy that was arrested on Central Street, right there by Central and Rio Grande, intoxicated on a horse. It jives with the story. He's wearing a gray coat, which is why the street cleaner thought he was a Confederate soldier.
While we may never know if the hamlet is truly haunted, hundreds of thousands have taken the nightly ghost tours through Old Town, listening to the tales of long ago and hoping to potentially snap a shot of a Spectre resident, still calling Old Town Albuquerque home.
There's nothing wrong with a good old-fashioned ghost story.
They persist because they mean something to somebody, and that's keeping it alive in memory as well.
The Old Town Ghost Tours are held daily, and you can book your spot by calling 505-246-TOUR. When we return on Legendary New Mexico, it's the infernal noise of the north that keeps guests and residents of Taos scratching their heads. The lure for many heading to Taos is peace and quiet, but the phenomenon of a low, constant noise throughout the area has had skeptics and many buzzing as to what it's all about. David Romero gives us some background on the Taos Hum.
There's a reason we're not saying anything. Did you hear it? Our cameras and microphones may not pick up anything, but for many who live in Taos, they will do anything to assure you that something is there. It's a phenomenon known as the Taos Hum. There's no real specific date when it started or was first noticed, but sometime around 30 years ago, a number of residents began to complain of a constant, low-frequency humming noise in Taos. As the legend of the hum began to grow, so did the curiosity for finding its source. Some describe the sound in terms of music as an E-flat. Others say it sounds like a running diesel truck or a high-powered bass woofer. With many skeptical of the sound's source, an outspoken group of believers in the hum reached out to New Mexico's congressional delegation. In 1993, a group of experts were assembled from UNM, Los Alamos National Lab, Phillips Air Force Laboratory, and Sandia National Laboratories to look into the existence of the alleged hum. Their findings were published in the Acoustical Society of America. With high-tech equipment, the team set out to collect noise data from different sites around the Taos area and interview the, quote, hearers of the noise. Nothing really conclusive turned up. Their final conclusion in the study came with the words, quote, "We are left with a mystery." And it's always in mystery where legends, ghosts, and other unexplained circumstances can thrive. David Romero, Legendary New Mexico.
Now, Taos is not alone in claiming a hum. Other major cities on the other side of the world, from England to Australia, say they have their own versions of the buzzing sound. Stay with us. After the break, we are taking a closer look at a legend from Aztec, New Mexico that is truly out of this world.
Legendary New Mexico, in partnership with TLC Plumbing and Utility.
New Mexico was a popular destination for visitors from outer space in the 20th century. And while one southern New Mexico town put us on the global map for UFO lore, it's not the only town with a tale from another world.
All right, stop me if you've heard this story.
It's the late 1940s in rural New Mexico. A flying saucer allegedly crashes. The military is dispatched to recover the debris, and a cover-up of the incident ensues.
We're not talking about the Roswell incident. We're talking about its lesser-known cousin.
The Aztec story really begins in 1948, and immediately, of course, it was a huge thing, right? They had police, military, top scientists around the world came to examine this thing. The saucer itself was 99.99 feet in diameter. Not 100, mind you, but 99.99. And they found 16 alien bodies between 3.5 feet tall. But here's the weird thing, is the clothing was indestructible. So it wouldn't burn, it wouldn't tear, it was this sort of weird material. That's the Aztec UFO crash story in a nutshell.
The incident has been widely regarded as a hoax staged by two traveling salesmen, Silas Newton and Leo Gebauer. They took their story to journalist Frank Scully, whose namesake would eventually go on to inspire the character of Dana Scully on The X-Files.
Frank Scully was a writer for Variety in Hollywood, and he heard about this amazing UFO crash from Silas Newton, and he wanted to tell the world about it.
Newton and Gebauer had other motives in sharing their story, however. The men were attempting to sell a device known as a doodlebug, purported to find oil, gas, and gold, because it was manufactured with alien technology recovered from the Aztec crash.
They went around saying, this is based on technology from Venus. Venusian technology, that's pretty cool, right? I mean, this is not cheap Chinese stuff. This is Venus, right?
The two men were arrested by the FBI in 1952 and ultimately convicted of fraud in 1965. Throughout the years, however, a number of players in the saga kept turning up to stir the pot. In the 1970s, author Leonard Stringfield came out stating that not only was the incident real, but the craft was captured and stored by the U.S. military, possibly at the infamous Hangar 18 at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio.
Then there's the Guy Hoddle memo, the 50-year-old document which resurfaced online in 2011.
This is a memo dated March 22nd, 1950, and to the director of the FBI, then J. Edgar Hoover, and it was from Agent Hoddle, Guy Hoddle. And the subject is very intriguing. Flying saucers, information concerning. Who would not want to read that? Well, it's partly redacted, but it says, investigator for the Air Force stated that 3 so-called flying saucers had been recovered in New Mexico. They were described as being circular in shape with ray centers approximately 50 feet in diameter. That's actually not accurate, whatever. Each one was occupied by 3 bodies of human shape but only 3 feet tall, dressed in metallic cloth of a very fine texture. According to Mr. Blank informant, the saucer was found in New Mexico due to the fact the government has a very high-powered radar setup in that area, and is believed the radar interferes with the controlling mechanisms of the saucers. No further evaluation was attempted concerning the above.
The memo never actually mentions Aztec by name, and many originally thought the document was proof positive of the Roswell incident.
It's really fascinating if you look at the story from a folkloric point of view, and you see how these stories, little elements appear and they come and go in different places. And that's exactly what happened here.
The alleged hoax was an act of opportunity, with Newton and Gebauer capitalizing on the buzz of UFOs sweeping the post-war American psyche. And in many ways, Aztec was only possible because of the buzz generated 1 year earlier in Roswell.
I think there is something otherworldly about New Mexico. Our landscape is alien-esque, certainly is to people who didn't grow up around here. If I told you the flying saucer crashed outside of Boston or Atlanta, no one would believe that. It's like, come on, right? But there's something about the New Mexican landscape, the culture and the geography, that people are like, yeah, that could happen.
The debate as to what happened in Aztec continues. A number of books have been written over the years exploring the theory that there was no hoax, and we invite you to continue the investigation for yourselves. Coming up after the break, an East Mountain mining town is hopping with tourism, both here and in the hereafter. Madrid, New Mexico was once a booming town for mining in the state, but after it went bust and people moved out, that's when many believed that the ghosts moved in. David Romero gives us a look at the charm of this haunting destination.
It's hard not to be considered haunted when the place you live in was once known as a ghost town. But for people living in Madrid or Madrid, New Mexico, they say it's part of their charm.
I don't know if I consider being haunted a stigma in this day and age, anything to stand apart from the crowd.
Established in 1869 as a mining town, at its peak, nearly 4,000 people lived in the town and worked in the mines. It was that dangerous profession which led to the demise of many.
Coal mining is deadly dangerous work, and many miners died in the mines. Many families lost their father, and this was an era when there really wasn't much of a social net for them. If a family lost their father, it could spell the end of that family as well.
Many say the spirits of those miners still haunt parts of the town. It was almost a domino effect with the death of those miners that more tragedy would arrive.
Because there was a lot of tragedy in Madrid, a lot of coal miners died, there was an orphanage in Madrid, and a lot of children were here and did not have the best care, and of course they died as well. And people that are sensitive will tell you that they hear the sound of children up by where there's a locomotive, that the children they hear are playing on it.
With World War II and the decline of coal as a heat source, many left the once thriving town in the mid-1950s, turning it into a ghost town. Fast forward almost 20 years later, it was rediscovered by a new group of hippies, outlaws, and some might say an eclectic bunch.
During its revitalization period, there was some growing pains of extreme violence and things like that, and there were a few violent deaths in town. And some people feel like some of those spirits might remain.
But it's not all doom and gloom in the popular tourist spot nestled between Santa Fe and Albuquerque.
People shouldn't be scared. I think if there are spirits and residue here, I don't think they have any sort of dark agenda. They probably just want to be remembered.
I think there is an energy surrounding this place and a vortex that embraces the people very much that live here. So people don't tend to have really bad experiences. They have experiences, but they're not scary or terrifying. And in many cases, like I said, I have always felt protected by the experiences that I've had.
And nearly everyone in town has a ghost story or two to tell.
You know, like in the movie Poltergeist, if you only move the stones and don't remove the bodies, you might end up with leftover spirits, I suppose.
But that doesn't stop the locals from having fun with the other realm. And many of the ghosts they consider friends. That even means having celebrations in the local cemetery.
We have parties up there. I mean, official town parties and stuff like that. So, yes, we like our dead. We love our dead. We include them.
David Romero, Legendary New Mexico.
Well, it's not all ghosts in mining in Madrid. The town itself has since become a hotspot for artists and galleries, with Hollywood even filming a movie or two in the area. Well, that's going to do it for us on this episode of Legendary New Mexico. If you'd like more information about these stories, as well as our past episodes, just head over to legendarynewmexico.com.